here we are. It's time to start dyeing our belt. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to go through and dye the background areas a dark brown, and then we'll be doing a lighter brown across the entire thing. So to do that, we're going to be using two dyes today. We're going to be using this Fiebing's oil dye in dark brown, and then for the whole belt, we'll be doing this water stain in medium brown. So for the oil, you basically just want to kind of swirl it around a little bit. You don't want to shake it vigorously. You just kind of want to get everything mixed in really well. I'm going to open it up here. So the reason why I'm choosing the oil is because it's a little bit more, runny. And for these background areas, I want to be able to just put a drop in and let it kind of run through all the nooks and crannies. So I'm just going to kind of fill up my brush here. And I'm going to hit right in the middle. And you can see it starts to already run through everything. And this is just going to add that little extra step for us. A little extra depth. And really knock the background back. And it's going to make things look really nice. So I'm just being careful to only hit my backgrounded areas. If you need to, go and get some more. And of course, I'm trying to be careful not to get it on anywhere where I don't want that brown. Okay. Let's go to the next area. And I'm just kind of letting my brush hit and then letting the dye do the rest of the work. Letting the oil dye pool and move around. Since it's so runny, it'll hit those areas for you pretty well. It'll kind of do a lot of the work for you. So yeah, just looking for those backgrounded areas. Cool deal. And that is how we set that in. It's just a little quick thing, simple little detail that I think really makes everything stand out. It's really kind of cool. And again, everything that we're trying to do with this tooling is add depth and dimension. So if you can add in just those kind of different layers, basically. So you're using some more art principles where things that are, in this case, darker for this is going to help push it back into space, where the brighter things are going to come forward visually on this piece. So you can kind of see what that backgrounding is already doing for this piece, just adding a little something. So we're going to make a little bit more space here because we're about to get into setting up our water stain and getting that into this piece. And this is going to cover the whole thing. We're going to do it all in one go. The attempt is to make sure that it's all one kind of even tone. And the water stain, I think, is really good for that. It's a great product, and I highly recommend all of the water stains. So we'll get to that and get really close to finishing out this piece. Yeah, let's do it. All right, it's time to start dyeing our piece. So first things first, we want to get our gloves. I use vinyl gloves as opposed to latex. Reason being is I have found that vinyl gloves don't stick to the dye and to the leather as I'm working on it. With latex in the past, when I was using it, I would have my thumb holding it and I'd be putting the dye on, and when I'd go to lift my thumb, it would leave a thumbprint. So that was no good. So I've now switched to these vinyl gloves, and they have worked perfectly for my needs. Okay. Also for this, I'm using a high density sponge as opposed to just a normal dish sponge, if you will. Those kind of sponges have a lot of pock marks and gaps in them because it's designed to agitate the soap and agitate the water, and you don't want that to happen with your dye. That can kind of cause problems when those bubbles up and they pop, and you might get little rings and things like that. So this is our medium water stain, medium brown, and I'm just going to shake this up. And you want to be careful with these when they're brand new. Sometimes there can be a little buildup in the nozzle and it kind of hardens up. So when you go to try to pour some out, because if you look here, this is actually a nozzle here as opposed to just a hole. And then there's going to be some buildup in there. So you might want to get a toothpick and get that out of there. Okay, so we've got everything here. I'm just going to pour some out. Yeah, I got a little buildup already on that one. We're just going to start working it in. Circular motions. We're trying to get in all of the little spaces that we've made. And you do want to be kind of quick with this. You don't want to let things sit for too long. You can see I'm going pretty fast. So I'm going to close that up. I don't need that anymore. Really hasn't gotten into a couple of my spots like I wanted it to. So I'm going to pause it real quick. I'm going to go rinse out this sponge. I'm going to come back over it, everything again. There we have it. It's all dyed up. Get a little closer here for the looking good. So that backgrounding is looking really nice. It's kind of a little bit probably harder to see. That's a little bit better on that camera. So you can see where it's all that dye's kind of pulled into the recesses, and the backgrounding, since you kind of did a dark brown and another brown, it's even darkening it up even more. So looking really good. Another thing we're going to end up doing once this is all dry, and I'm going to leave it for a couple of hours or so, because it is water and it is wet, so it's moistened the piece. We're going to come back through with some acrylic paint and paint this medallion in here, and also we'll end up dyeing the other pieces as well. So that's our next bit. Once this is all dyed up, that's when we'll get into putting our suede lining on it. And that'll be sewing and all that really fun and very, very, very tedious work. But it's going to look awesome when we're all said and done. This is getting there, guys. It's a super exciting part. All right. Oh, one last thing before I forget. Normally we'd want to really focus on making sure we get you know, the edges with all of the dye. So if you're not doing any kind of edge coating or something like that, you do want to make sure as you're putting the dye on to turn this thing around and really hit your edges. But I'm putting some edge paint on it, so I wasn't too worried about that. The edge paint will fix up a lot of my edge problems. Okay, that's all I have to say about dyeing.